Hey PhoenixFab, what's poppin'? In this video, we're going to talk about Meshtastic and its integration into ATAK. How you can see each other and text each other on a smartphone while you're out on the airsoft field or while you're hiking, even though you have no cell reception at all. We're going to discuss my personal off-the-grid voice and data radio comm setup and how you and your buddies can get going with Meshtastic. It's easy and not costly at all. I'm going to tell you what to buy and how to set it up, so let's go. A little bit about the structure of this video. We're going to look at Meshtastic and we're going to look at ATAK and how these two things can be really cool for your outdoor adventures. What do I need and how do I set it up? First, Meshtastic and the node, and then its integration into ATAK, how to do offline maps and how to do map overlays. And what are other cool add-ons for your nodes? Then we're going to talk about my personal ATAK server I did on a Raspberry Pi. And lastly, we're going to talk about voice comms. What is Meshtastic? Meshtastic is a project that enables you to use inexpensive low-Ra radios as a long-range off-the-grid communication platform in areas without existing or reliable communication infrastructure. This project is 100% community-driven and open source. Meshtastic uses long-range radio, which is very accessible in most regions without acquiring a special certification or a license, unlike ham radios. LoRa is known for its low energy consumption and the ability to cover substantial distances up to 15 kilometers and way more. This makes it ideal for scenarios where traditional communication is unavailable. These radios are designed to rebroadcast messages they receive, and with this forming a mesh network. This ensures that every group member can receive messages because the people in between act as a relay for each other. These Meshtastic radios can be paired with a phone, and then friends or family members can send a message on their phone that gets transmitted by the LoRa radio, enabling messaging in absolute off-the-grid areas, making it not only useful for messaging but also for data and, in our case, GPS location. Think of an AirTag that can write messages to other AirTags that are then also sharing their location onto a battle map that looks like from Battlefield or Call of Duty in absolute off-the-grid areas where there's no cell phone reception. For example, here in Germany, Malwinkel has no cell reception. You are still able to see where your buddies are on the game field and you can text them. So if you lose your buddies, you just look in the ATAK app, it's like, where is he located? And you can just walk right up to him. The same goes for stuff if you don't know if there's friend or foe in front of you, you could check the map and see if there's someone from your team in front of you. It's very similar to the Blue Force Tracker or RS Alpha app, but this setup doesn't use any cell phone reception at all. This actually doesn't even have a SIM card in it. I heard about people using the Meshtastic devices to communicate to friends and family in the recent wildfires in California. Also, first responders are known to use ATAK for their overall planning, and you can actually subscribe to wildfire channels where you can see wildfire places. Mostly though, this is used by farmers. They put it on top of their vehicles and then they can monitor their soil health, weather, and all that stuff that is far out on the field. They can see where each machine is and what they're doing. A perfect example for how this could have been very helpful for me personally was I was at a big airsoft event, Light Sim, and we were approaching this building and we heard over the radio that there's enemy players in front of us. We didn't really know exactly where, so we came upon a group of people and I looked at them and I was mistaken Greek lizard camo for a Russian camo, and I thought, okay, this is enemy players. I started shooting. Well, this was all blue and blue and a lot of friendly fire. I got a lot of my own guys out of the game, and if I would have had this setup and I could have just stopped and see, hey, okay, they have their own little nodes. I can see, are they friendlies or are they enemy players? A perfect example for the use case in airsoft. What is ATAK? ATAK, or the Android Team Awareness Kit, is an Android smartphone geospatial infrastructure and military situation awareness app. It allows for precision targeting, surrounding land formation intelligence, situational awareness, navigation, and data sharing. Basically a map app on steroids where friendlies can share locations of enemy players, friendly structures, and even live stream drone footage for everyone on the team. It is basically the Battlefield or Call of Duty map you see in the corner, but in real life. So this is basically what the games based their battle maps on. The US government developed also a civil version of ATAK, and it's called ATAK Civ. This is mostly for first responders, but it can be downloaded by everyone from the Google Play Store. This version obviously has no ITAR capabilities. So why is this cool for airsoft? Well, it's not only cool for airsoft, it's also very cool for any kind of outdoor adventure. Plus, first responders use this to organize themselves all the time. And for airsoft specifically, it could give you maybe a little bit of an upper hand because you can really tell where friendlies are and you can communicate a little better on how to approach the enemy outpost. What do I need and how do I configure it? So you don't need that much. The only thing you need is a T-Beam Meshtastic board, a battery, and an Android phone. This is in essence all you need. With the phone, you can maybe even ask your buddy if he has an old Android phone, because this basically only needs to display maps. It doesn't need to be very expensive or top-notch. An old phone is totally fine. And that's exactly what I did. Thanks, Migi. For basic testing, an iPhone works too. You have ATAK, which is the OS version of ATAK, and you have the Meshtastic app as well. But you cannot combine these two because on the Android phone, to make them seamless, we need to install a plugin, and we cannot do that on an iPhone. Apple won't allow us. So on an iPhone, you can only use the ATAK standalone app and the Meshtastic standalone app. And in this sense, ATAK would work with your cellular data. There are other devices like the T-Echo, which is a little smaller and already ready to go because it already has a case and the battery inside. Or for example, there's the T1000E, but on both the T-Echo and the T1000E, you cannot change the battery, or you could change the antenna in this one. These both are ready to go out of the box. You just need to charge them up and go. There are a lot more devices, but the most important thing is that we have a GPS antenna module on the board. So the T-Beam comes with a GPS module and is overall the most used board. It is quite power hungry, so it's not recommended to use this as a solar node, something that stays out for a very long time, but this is perfect for our small or even big ops over multiple days. The links to everything is down in the description below. So if you go now to AliExpress, where I suggest you should buy this because it's the cheapest. This T-Beam costs around 40 euros. You could order it from Amazon, but you would definitely pay a little more. And you have to be very careful of what you select once you go onto AliExpress or any other store. It is very important that you check for soldered LCD. Otherwise, you have to solder on yourself the LCD. It is very important what frequency you use, because there's different frequencies over the world. For me here in Europe, I use 868 megahertz. There's also 433 megahertz. There's a lot of pros and cons about which one to take. I know more people with 868. I heard the census is more that 433 is a little clogged up and a lot of trash is on that frequency. So the community kind of gathered around 868 megahertz in Europe. If you're in America, you need to choose 915 megahertz. It is very important which frequency you choose because the frequencies cannot talk to each other. So 868 cannot talk to 433. Additionally, you need a battery. This is an 18650 battery. They do not come with the board, so you need to order them separately. Just make sure that you get a flat top. That means the plus side doesn't have this little nub you sometimes see on batteries. But you could also get this very easily in your vape store, because a lot of vapes have these in them. I actually bought this at a vape store here around the corner. So one of these batteries holds like 12 to 16 hours on my device. Depends, of course. Plus you could additionally put a power bank in here to give it even more juice for multiple days. So how does it work? You write a little message in your phone, and this is transferred via Bluetooth to the radio. And the radio takes that message and broadcasts it. If the radio haven't received a confirmation, it will try to rebroadcast your message up to 3 times. When a receiving radio captures a packet, it will check, hey, do I have seen this packet before? And if yes, I will ignore it. If not, I will take it and rebroadcast it. For each message a radio rebroadcasts, the hop limit goes down by 1. And then if a radio receives a message with the hop limit of 0, it will not rebroadcast that message. The radio also stores up to like 30 packets in its memory if the app is not connected, but it will override them continuously if you don't connect your phone to the radio, which is on for quite a long time. So I guess let's do it. Let's take your T-Beam device that you got and let's flash the firmware on it so we can use it with Meshtastic. It is very important that before you put the battery on in the correct way is that you always attach the antenna first. Otherwise you can damage the board because it gets too much current without the antenna. Then you always check for polarity, that's very important. And then you'd see that these batteries go in so super snug. And there it's turning on. So we need a little cable, we need a little computer with a Chrome-based browser. So we need to connect obviously the board to our computer and then we go to flasher.meshtastic.org. Plug in your device, ensure the cable is not a power only one. So it needs to be a data cable, then select target device. We're gonna choose the LilyGo T-Beam right here. Then we're gonna choose the firmware. We always wanna go with the beta, which is stable. We don't want an unstable. And then we're gonna press flash. Give us all the infos. Then we're gonna say continue. And then we're gonna do a full erase and install. Now erase, flash, and install. We're gonna go USB single serial, paired, connect. And there we go. Erasing flash. Bye-bye old firmware. It says flashing file, system partition 100% complete. It is doing its thing. Then here it tells us now in the console that the LoRa is disabled because the region is unset. And now we have our Bluetooth code on the little LCD. So we need to go now on our phone and boop it into Bluetooth, and this is the password for the Bluetooth. There we go. It's also saying now here in the console the passcode that we also see on the LCD in case your LCD is broken or you don't have one. And it's already asking me here to pair a Bluetooth pairing request, and I'm gonna put in the code I see right here. So this is the 739. And then I'm gonna press pair. So now we open Meshtastic and we already have a bunch of stuff coming in. It's probably because all my other Meshtastic stuff, but we're gonna see that we can connect to the radio, and it already does. The console tells us also that we're connected now, so we can close this. We don't need this anymore. This will just run in circles. So what we're gonna do now, the first thing is we have to set our region in the top right corner because it says unset. So we go on region and I have European Union 868 megahertz. The board will restart. It says rebooting on the LCD screen. Every time you're going to change a setting and you're going to send the setting, it will boop it to the board and the board is going to reboot. That's just how it works. This is coming back. We can see that it's communicating, the module. Now we're back in the board automatically, and we can see we already have some stuff on the LCD going on. And now we're going to configure the T-Beam to make it yours. So we have set the region, and we go on the 3 dots and we're going to radio configuration, and we're going to start with user because you're the user. There's a long name and you're going to boop in your long name. So I'm going to go with PhoenixFeather, and this is device 1 because this is the device that's going to be on my person. And then you have to do a short name because sometimes you need an abbreviation. So I'm going to do PFA1. Hardware model, T-Beam, licensed amateur radio. I'm not, because then it also disables encryption. And then we're gonna press send, and it's gonna send it. So everything's grayed out because we're still not connected back. Let's go back and see. Yeah, okay, we're back in. Then we go back to radio configuration and we're gonna go to channels. We have one channel. This is channel 0. This is the standard and it's called long fast. This is the open channel with the key AQ equal. So this is an open channel for everyone who has Meshtastic devices. So if you walk around the city, you will get maybe people who also have Meshtastic devices communicate in this one. What's important with this one is position is enabled, but the precise location is always disabled. Don't use channel number 0 as one of the channels you use. Always create a new channel to definitely get precise GPS location, because this is turned off for channel 0. Very important. This is the same for everyone. This is how strangers can communicate. So let's create a new channel where your buddies can boop into. So we're gonna hit the plus button and we're gonna name this maybe PFA for me, PhoenixFeatherAirsoft, and it gives us already a key. We can regenerate this key a couple of times if we want to. We don't want to uplink enabled, we don't want downlink enabled. This is MQQT. This is something that if your board is stream stuff over the internet, but don't do that because you're going to put your GPS location all over the internet. So we're going to do position enabled and precise location enabled, and we're going to save this. And then we're going to send it, and it's going to send it over to our little board, and it's going to reboot again. So now we have successfully created our own encrypted channel where only people you share the key with can come into. Now we want to boop our friends into it. We can go here and we can uncheck the long fast, and now we have here a perfect QR code which we can just show to our friends. They open the camera and they can just scan the stuff, and it automatically will go into the Meshtastic app and add them to your private secured channel. Here you can also change the modes. I would always go with long range fast. Maybe you want to do long range moderate, but this should be fine. Just leave it how it is. Here's also the URL if you want to send it, but this is how you share your secured channel. Now let's go to device, because there's some very important things we have to clarify right here. And this is the role. Now we are on client, and client should be the thing that you use all the time. This is like the basic for everyone. But if you just think, oh, I'm gonna be a repeater and press repeater, you don't really know what that means. Because a repeater, yes, takes all the packages and rebroadcasts them within the hop limit, but it is not shown on the map, so it's invisible. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't want that. A tracker, for example, can only share GPS location and cannot text. So this is perfect for a dog collar, like an AirTag. Or you can use a router, which is an infrastructure node for extending network coverage by always rebroadcasting a packet once. And it is visible in the node list. So we should be fine for now with client. Then we go to position, and we have smart position enabled. So the smart broadcast will send out your location more often if you move more, so to speak. But don't worry about this too much, because if we use ATAK, we're gonna override those settings coming from ATAK later. The only thing we might want to change is the GPS mode is enabled, and GPS update interval we're going to change to 60 seconds. So at least once a minute. You shouldn't go further under that, maybe 30 seconds if you do some range testing, but if you do too much, it could lead to congestion in the mesh network. So now we have an error, disconnected. Let's see if this just boops right up. Usually this is what happens. This goes all the time. Position, go back in, and it changed. So I had an error message, but it still worked. Then we go to power. We never enable power saving mode because this could impact our GPS location greatly. Network, we don't bother that much about it because we're not gonna do that. Display, we can do some stuff that the display should turn off more quickly if you want to save some battery. And then we go to LoRa, which is a very important settings, or we have to at least talk about it because we have here the modem preset. These are predefined modem settings which incorporate bandwidth, spread factor, and coding rate, which influences both message speed and range. And the default provides the best out of two worlds of speed and range, and this is long fast. If you go too fast, you won't have too much range. And if you go too slow, it's also not gonna work that well with the radios anymore. So long fast is the best bet. Then we can see the hop limit. The default is 3 and this should be totally fine. The absolute max is 7. We shouldn't just say, hey, 7, this is the biggest number. Wow, this is so cool, I should do that, because this could lead to congestion if you have too many hops and too many devices in a closed area. Much rather keep it with 3, because 3 always means the radius in between 2. So if you have 3 hops, you're gonna have 3 hops in between. So you have a radio, 1 hop, 2 hop, 3 hop, and then the 4th radio cannot rebroadcast it. Then very important for the Europeans here, we have override duty cycle, because we live in Europe and there's a lot of stuff very close to each other. These little radios sometimes have a duty cycle. When they go over it, they're not allowed to broadcast anymore. This is, for example, for like car keys, everything that has a radio on it, that we don't get complete congestion with all these little things. By default, this option is false, which means the device will stop sending any data when it reaches the hourly limit and will start again when it's allowed to do so. So you can override this here, but this is totally up to you and I have nothing to do with your decisions. And we're gonna ignore MQTT, and we're not okay with MQTT because we don't want to connect this to the internet. And now this is basically it. You have a Meshtastic device. This is working. You should wait until GPS locks. Sometimes it takes a little while you're inside, but it works. I can see myself on the map. I'm in Germany. And now it's up to you to do your first testing. Take this, go in a city, put it on top of a roof and let it sit there for like half a day and see what kind of nodes are in your surroundings. Does anything come in? Do people start messaging on the open channel, channel 0, the AQ equal key? Just have some fun with it. I often take it to just random places and see what kind of new nodes I can discover. It's like basically like a real life Pokemon Go, which is kind of funny, and you talk to strangers, which can also be sometimes fun. Whenever you're ready to then do the ATAK thing, we have to go back to roles and change it not to client, but we have to change it to tag. You can always go back and forth, and I always do. So let's do that really quick. So we go back onto a radio configuration. We're gonna go to device. We're gonna go from client to tag, and we're gonna send that, and then we are ready to ATAK. Now I got, again, error message disconnected, but the board is rebooting. It's disconnected actually, so don't worry. So let's make sure that we can talk to other Meshtastic devices before we go any deeper down the rabbit hole into ATAK, and we don't have too much troubleshooting if that is not working. And we're gonna go in the channel. It can already see that I have PhoenixFeather 2 right here, and I'm gonna take my iPhone, because this is also on my iPhone, and I'm gonna boop right in here, and let's go on channels. Let's go on the primary channel, and I'm gonna send a hi from my iPhone and see if we get acknowledged. And we get acknowledged hi, and we get it on the Android, which has no SIM card in it. And we have here a little acknowledge. We can go write a little ATAK back, which I do all the time when I'm walking around the city. I'm just gonna send an acknowledge and see if people answer and see if it goes through, and we can see it went through. So perfect. We also have it on the iPhone. The message came through from PFA1, and I can see here PFA2. ATAK. Okay, now it's time to get your Android phone out and go to the Google Play Store and download ATAK. If you don't want to use Google, you can also find APK installer from somewhere else if you don't want to have Google touch your phone at all. It is possible and totally off the grid if you want so. So go get the latest version of ATAK. So get the latest version of ATAK and then open it, and then it's gonna ask for a bunch of permissions. Just make sure to give ATAK all those permissions, because it's a very, very deep app. You can do a lot with it and it needs the stuff. This is why I have an extra phone only for that. The first thing what we're gonna do is we have to Google the Meshtastic plugin for ATAK, and we need to install it. So we're gonna Google Meshtastic plugin ATAK, and it's a GitHub. We need the ATAK plugin. There it is. We're gonna take that official ATAK plugin. We want this. We go to GitHub, scroll down, blah, 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 blah. Where's release settings, blah, 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 blah. Releases. There it is, 1.0.35 for me. I plop it and I want to download it into downloads. And I press OK. Might be harmful, download anyway. So I have it downloaded now. Now I'm gonna press open, should start the app, and it already asks me, Meshtastic plugin, do you want to install this app? And I want to install. App installed, done. And now we're gonna go into ATAK. And directly in ATAK, it says, would you like to load this installed plugin into ATAK? Meshtastic plugin. Yes, I would like to, and I press OK. If you don't get that, I'm going to show you in a second. So loaded plugin, Meshtastic, and we already get the green rectangle with the Meshtastic logo in the bottom right corner. This is awesome because that means the plugin is working and the Meshtastic device is connected. So we can go onto the Kebab top left corner, and then we go all the way down to, where is it? PV plugins. And here we can see that Meshtastic is installed and that the plugin is loaded. If it's not checked, you need to check it right here, and then we're good to go. This is all you need to get the Meshtastic data from your Meshtastic device, from the app, onto ATAK. We're gonna adjust a couple of settings for the Meshtastic app. For that, we go again Kebab, we go all the way down to settings, then we go to tool preferences, specific tool preferences, we scroll down and we're gonna go Meshtastic preferences. So here we want to do and add a couple of things. We want to enable relay to server. Yes, on, because we want to later maybe connect to my server or to any other ATAK server so we can communicate and put little symbols on the screen and everyone can see them. Then we want to show all Meshtastic devices. We want this on. Don't show device without GPS. You can leave that off. And then the first thing we're gonna have a look at is the reporting rate. Select ATAK's constant reporting rate in minutes, and we're gonna go with 1 minute because we want to get an update every 1 minute of everyone around us. Then we can say that it should only send PLI and chat messages over Meshtastic. We don't want that because we also want data packages sent over Meshtastic, even though it takes a long time. We want this, so we leave all this stuff off. For that, we also want to allow switch commands, which allow data packages over Meshtastic. And here we can also change the channel index, which is important because now it's on 0, which means we're gonna communicate in the open channel, which is AQ ==, which every device has this. If you want to be on your secure channel you made with your friends, you need to put here a number 1. So otherwise, all the nodes you're going to discover on the public channel will show up also here on ATAK, and it's not so nice to see all that stuff. So we're going to go with 1, and then we know channel number 1 is the one we're going to use maybe for the next op. We're going to need to check one more thing, and for that we're going to go Kebab. We're going to go all the way down to settings. We're going to go to device preferences, and then we're going to do call sign preferences, my call sign, and here you're going to put your name or your call sign, whatever you want. So this is how you're going to show up on the map. And then you can also change your team. You can take a color, you can take a role. I have forward observer, doesn't matter. You can be a K9 if you want to. And with that, basically your name is set up, and then we're going to go down to GPS preferences, the GPS option, and we want to use the external GPS or network GPS, and we fall back onto the internal GPS, which means is we want to use the GPS antenna from the Meshtastic board, but if there's a problem, we want that ATAK uses the phone's GPS, which also should work. So this is the first step of ATAK for you, and now we're gonna add some maps. ATAK. Now we're gonna add some more maps onto ATAK so you can circle through different backgrounds, that we have different kind of maps we can navigate on. For that, you're gonna go again onto your Google and you're gonna search for ATAK Maps. Search the GitHub of Joshua Fuller, and you go and gonna download that zip. Gonna download it from the release page. Let's go to the releases. Changelog. We're gonna download the atakmaps.zip. Yes, download again. Okay, I have it already, but I'm gonna show you what you do. File downloaded, open. I want to open this. I want to unzip this, and it shows me all the stuff. And I want to extract this into ATAK Maps. Okay, I'm going to do ATAK Maps 1 because I already have it, but that's fine. We're going to go and download. Then we have ATAK Maps 1. We're going to edit all of those, and we're going to select them all, and we're going to move them to the ATAK folder. So we're going to press move, and then here's the ATAK folder. We're going to go in here, and then we're going to choose imagery. And now I have them already in there, so I'm going to press cancel, but you're going to press move here. And then they're going to move all those XML files over into the ATAK folder structure, and ATAK should automatically load them. And we can check that if we go onto the maps, and then we have mobile, and we can scroll down, and we have a bunch of different maps we can have a look at. There's so many to choose from, but I usually use this Google Satellite. I like this the most. If this should not work, close ATAK again and open it back up, and they should be there. These are not offline maps. These are just XML reference files that point to maps. We need to download them in a second step to get them actually onto the device in an offline mode. You can also get this whole ATAK Maps thing if you don't want to search the internet. Later on, if you connect to my server, you can also find these ATAK Maps in the data packages. Also, they should be downloaded automatically with enrollment. ATAK. So now let's create an offline map. It's actually quite easy. So what we need to do is maybe we change this so we can read where we actually are. And we're gonna go to my favorite airsoft field, which is Malwinkel, and we're gonna download some offline maps. It looks like I already downloaded a tile, but we want to do a little better. So this is the game field of Malwinkel, my favorite airsoft field in Germany, maybe in the world, and we want to save this as an offline map. So we're gonna go to maps, we're gonna choose the map that we want, maybe we're gonna zoom out a little bit more, and now we can see that we're under the mobile tab and map source is online. So if we go to offline, we won't have any map locally saved. So this would be completely shitty quality if we don't save enough stuff. So what we go to map source online, and then next to it there's a little arrow. We're gonna press that and we want to select an area to download. So we're gonna go with the rectangle, 3-point entry. So I'm gonna go around Malwinkel, boop, 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 with enough coverage on all the sides. Then you have to define a coarseness. So in this case, I'm gonna go from like 20 kilometers to 0.15 meters is too much because we're over 400,000 files and we cannot be over a 300K limit, I believe. But we don't need to download until 60 centimeters of resolution. So I think 1 meter should be fine. We're gonna be from 20 kilometers, so quite far up, to 1 meter should be totally fine. Then we're gonna press download and it's gonna ask us create a new tile set. We're gonna say yes, and we're gonna call this our game field name. So in this case, we're gonna call it Malwinkel. I'm gonna press done. And then now we would download this as a separate map, but we want this as an overlay to the already existing map. Otherwise it would be its own thing. And if we have it as an overlay, we can toggle it on and off. It's a little bit easier. I like it a little bit more. So I'm gonna put a check mark on this. So then we're gonna press OK. I already have one that's called Malwinkel. So we're gonna call this Malwinkel 2. And we're gonna press OK. And now I can see it's going to download the tiles. If you go big or like really detailed, it can take 45 minutes. Like it can take a long, long time to download all these tiles. Of course, it depends on how big of an area you choose, but this is already quite big. So while I'm downloading this, maybe some tips. Start with a broad area and then go in more detail the closer you get. Don't download just in the entirety of Germany or the entirety of the US or your state you're living in. It's going to be way too much data. Really go like sparse and download the areas you are operating in, or you're going to have your little walk-in or you're hiking. So you could do like a big overview of the entire hike and then get details along the route you're really traveling along. Otherwise, you're going to have too much data. So now we have it downloaded, boop this away, and we're gonna go to the hamburger menu, which is the overlay manager, and we can see that we have some image overlays. So we're gonna boop on here, and we can see we have the Marwinkel 2 SQ Lite. And if we click that, this is our overlay of the Marwinkel map. So if I boop this on here now, on and off, you can see that we have this map downloaded and in offline mode. So whenever you go now to Marwinkel, you can really scroll down and get everything in a good detail to see friendly movement on the game field. Now do this with all the other game fields or wherever areas you're going to, so you can see how this works. ATAK. I'm going to show you another cool feature of ATAK, and we're going to create a rubber sheet overlay of a map. So for that we need a technical map. Let's go and get the map for Light Sim. Let's see if I can get it so easily. It doesn't work with PDFs, so I think it needs to be a PNG or a JPEG. And then we're gonna go open ATAK and we're gonna create a new rubber sheet. So we're gonna go to Kebab, and then we go to R rubber sheet. We're gonna press plus, and here we're gonna take the lightsim.png. And boop, it already boops in our little card, which of course now is not perfectly overlaid. So we're gonna go to edit. This is the 4 o'clock position. And here on color, we can change the opacity. So we're gonna bring it down so we can see the streets a little bit. Oh, it's gonna be complicated. And now we're gonna edit it. I'm gonna go on edit, and we're gonna move the corners until we have a perfect match with our game field. So this is gonna take a minute. Obviously, this is a little bit of finesse you need here. Just go counterclockwise or clockwise around the corners and try to fix them into place where it makes the most sense. And then if we do that for a while, we have a very nice overlay of our map on the actual map. So I think I'm done now. I'm gonna do end editing. Then I can put the color back up, and we have the game map in ATAK. So now we would see our location always on this place, and we have all the buildings signed in there. And yeah, this is just the beginning of ATAK of what you can do, because now we could also add shapes and give all the buildings their little numbers or their little name. But most of the time, this is the most you need, and you can always toggle this on off rubber sheets. And here we have the Lightsim PNG, and I can toggle it on or off, whatever I want. Change the opacity. This is how you do rubber sheets, overlays of maps on maps. What are other cool add-ons? First, you want to maybe get a 3D printed enclosure for your T-beam. Basically, this is what is inside of there. You can print this yourself because there's a lot of free and available files you can get, or you can ask someone to print it for you. For example, I have here from the heads down comes up. He made this for me. This is like an enclosure for the T-beam. It has the battery inside. I can see the buttons right here, but I also can charge it through here or put a power bank on it if I want to run this for multiple days. If I would like to switch the battery out that's on the inside, I would need to unscrew all those screws and disassemble the little case, and then put it all back together once I'm done. But you don't really need to if you do it once. Most of the time this is not gonna be happening because this is gonna be a stationary node for me. This is a node I can place somewhere on the game field, on a strategically like high spot, maybe on top of a building, in a plastic bag or something that if it rains, it doesn't get wet, but it is just there to rebroadcast and give us all over the map a little bit more range. So for the node that I run on my person, you've probably already seen that. This is just an old case I got from a red dot I ordered off of AliExpress. And what I did is super easy. I fitted this upside down. In here, I marked where the antenna touches the side of the box, and I use the drill to just drill a hole in here. Then I can stuck the antenna connector just right through, and it sits in here and it is protected. It has some more space in there, and I can then take this, because it's attached to my back. I have actually antenna cable here. The antenna cable goes on top of here, and this goes in the back of my backpack, and I don't need to touch it ever again until it's maybe time to change the battery or put a power bank on it. This is the boxes they actually come in, and I did the same thing. I put the T-beam in and I checked, okay, where's the antenna connector touching the case? I marked it, I drilled a hole. Oh, I need to re-drill that hole, and then you can use this, which is like half open a little bit, but you can tape it closed and you can throw this in your bag or in your pocket, whatever you want. This is just a super easy way to do a case. You don't always need a 3D printed one. The second thing I recommend you to get, but it's totally up to you, is a different GPS antenna. So this is a GPS antenna I got off of Amazon, and it's $4.99. It's much bigger than the GPS antenna that it comes with the T-beam, and with that has a lot more precision locating and a better time just getting your overall GPS position. And it helped me to get rid of some GPS issues I was having with the tiny little antenna. I was recommended this, and I will always recommend that. Next up, we have the yogurt cup antenna, which is freaking awesome. It's also made by Heads Down Comes Up. In my case, I have the dual version antenna, which means I have an antenna in here for UHF and for VHF, and one for data, which is 868 megahertz, as we learned before. These are both in there. You can also get a single antenna version if you want, if you only want voice with your radio, or if you only want a Meshtastic, or if you only want Wi-Fi. He does like different versions, or if you want GPS or 200 megahertz, that's also possible. There's a lot of different versions of the yogurt cup antenna. The idea came to him from the slingshot antenna that Delta uses, and he made it a little bit of his own design to achieve better range with Meshtastic devices. Because sometimes these little stubby antennas, they can be shielded by your gear, or they sit on your body where your body acts as a shield. With the yogurt cup antenna, it's like kind of like higher up, it's more free floating. Even if you're laying down, you're not laying down on top of the antenna, which could greatly impair the radio frequencies going through you. So this is a little bit more freestanding, and with that gonna have a better connection. You're gonna think, yeah, do I gonna lose here some range because the antenna cable is so long? Am I using some power? Maybe you're gonna lose a little bit, but you also have to remember that the yogurt cup antenna improves your Meshtastic range greatly. It mounts with a 3/8 UNC screw on the bottom, and this is like a very normal screw that's also used in a wide range of tripods and other mounting stuff. So you can mount this basically to any photo tripod you know. If you're interested in the yogurt cup antenna, shoot him a message on Instagram and yeah, tell him that I've sent you. In my opinion, the antennas not only look very cool, but it's also really cool to ID people with it. So I was at a night event recently, and it was really dark, and everyone's like decked out to the teeth in like crazy gear, and I could just ID my buddy's sticks really easily because I could see the antenna really well. So I always knew, that's him, even if I was not wearing night vision, but it made IDing a specific person a lot easier. But if you want to be a little bit more low profile, I heard there's going to be a laser cut scrim for this and camo this out a little bit. There's going to be something out in the near future from Heads Down Comes Up. So concealment is a little bit better, and you will not be identified by your antenna. Then the next one is if you want to change the stock antenna the T-beam comes with, I highly recommend to you the Descent antenna. It's very cheap, also on AliExpress, but it appears also in the official Meshtastic documentation. You can find it there. I really like it, and they're definitely better than the little stock ones. The reviews for these are great. And then there are solar nodes, which are super interesting, and I definitely want to build one where you basically take a Meshtastic board, preferably not the T-beam because it uses too much power. People tend to use the rack boards a lot, and they put them in a waterproof container, something like this, and they put a solar panel on top that powers then a battery or a power bank that's inside. And with that, the stuff can run for multiple months, maybe even years if you have it enough sunlight. So this is completely by itself out in the wilderness, and you can let these run and see how they can improve your mesh network. But this sounds like a really cool project you could do on the weekends to build a little solar node that you could hang high in the trees, for example, and it would be almost self-sufficient in power. What is interesting about the rack boards is that they usually don't have a GPS module installed on them, which saves a lot of power. My own ATAK server on a Raspberry Pi. I recently got into Raspberry Pis, and I gotta say, it's so much fun to work on these. These are little tiny computers basically, and you can create so much stuff with them. And I decided to put my own ATAK server on it. There's not much material out there, and I'm gonna say it is actually quite hard. I warned you. But the learning curve is very steep, and you learn a lot about networking, DDNS, the internet in general, how does it work, and a lot of stuff I absolutely had no idea about. But why do you want actually your own ATAK server? Well, I just wanted one. That's basically it. But it brings a couple of advantages. If you have like a lot of people who run Meshtastic devices on your team, it's a little bit easier because you can give them data packages. So I could prepare all the game fields, and they just needed to download these little maps we created earlier, the rubber sheets, and they can just download them and they're in ATAK. Or you can have different data syncs where these packages automatically get synced to your ATAK, which maybe would include like locations of the fob or intelligence, and then after the op I could just go in and delete all of that, so the next time we go there, there's for everyone on the team, there's no info left. But you also don't need everyone to be on your Meshtastic channel. You could have everyone run on the server as well, so it will also work if Meshtastic has no connection and you may have a SIM card installed with cellular data. So it would be a little bit more seamless and ensure that we have a data connection of identifying friendlies. So I started out with the release called FTS, Free Tag Server. It's a project on GitHub you can just check out the documentation. The installation is pretty straightforward, and I used 2 videos to just get the feeling about it. How does it actually work? But it is quite hard. So there is an installation guide by Slevin. He's so nice to wrote this, and you should really go after that guide and just keep the videos in mind so you have seen it before. Make sure your Raspberry Pi is on Ubuntu server 22.04. I basically, to get it up and running, to test it out, I needed like 4 times to install it. So it's not super easy, especially as a beginner that I was, but the learning is actually a lot of fun. So it is very important, if you go through that you install 0 tier on your Raspberry and on the computer you're using, so you can, while you enter the install command, put already your public IP into the install command. And this is really important because I was getting a lot of troubles down the road where if I would like to create my own SSL certificates, it would just write my local IP within my network in there. And this obviously doesn't work. So if I would have continued with that, each and every person who wanted to connect to my server would need to put in the IP by hand. So that wasn't so clean. So I tried to get this like fixed, but it went down an absolute crazy rabbit hole where then the whole thing kind of stopped working, and I was having issues here and there, and when I fixed that, another issue arose. So I basically tanked the FTS server. After I scrapped that, I decided to go with ATAK server. It's a different build, it's also open source, but their installation was a little bit more straightforward and you don't need to do so many commands. Plus it had SSL authentication certificate generation already built in, so this was super easy to get SSL connection established, which is important because, yeah, we want not only HTTP, we want HTTPS for secure. So basically you have to do the Ubuntu curl from the GitHub, then open all the important ports on your router, and then use something like duckDNS to point your public IP to a domain, and if it changes, the domain stays the same, so people can always connect to your ATAK server. So if you want to join my ATAK server and play around a little bit, here's how you do it. We go to the Kebab menu, not rubber sheets, we want the Kebab. So we go all the way down, settings. Then we're going to go network preferences, tag servers. Here I'm already connected, but I'm going to show you anyways how to do it. You're going to do add name. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it PFA test. And then in address, we're going to put PhoenixFeather.duckdns.org. Then we're going to use authentication, and we're going to go username is, for you guys, PFA. And the password is PFA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we want to enroll for client certificates. And we're going to go down. We're going to do advanced options. And we're going to do SSL, Serverport, 8089 is correct. We're going to check use default SSL TLS certificates. That is correct. But we need to go back up and uncheck Enroll with Preconfigured Trust. We boop that away. And then we're going to go down, press OK. And I'm going to be, hopefully didn't blow it up now on my device, but I did. So it worked, and it already tells me that it wants to have the permission to install unknown apps. So please give that, which means that the data sync already will be installed, so I can send you maps and stuff, so I can create a data sync channel. Plus the ATAK apps was already downloaded if you enroll for the first time onto my server. So let's see what happened. Tech server registration succeeded. Boop, you're on the server, you're connected to SSL, so it's a secure connection, and you would have already the ATAK Maps.zip downloaded, and you have the plugin loaded, which is Data Sync, where I'm gonna play around a little bit in the near future, and we're gonna have some more maps and scenarios that I can add to different game fields, especially Malwinkel. Other than that, welcome to my server, enjoy, and let's play around a little bit. If you or we are on before a big op and you want your own team, you want your own channel, make sure to come over to the Discord and we can talk about this there. Just hit me up and I can create something for that is your team specific. So you guys would have your own user group so you don't see each other, for example. Let me know on my Discord. The link is also in the description below. I'm trying to revive it. Please be kind. If you have an iPhone and you still want to connect to my server, that is possible. It's just not possible that you use it then with Meshtastic, but you can use it with your cellular data of your SIM card. And with ATAK, which is for the OS, it's actually really easy to connect to the server. You don't have to put in a bunch of stuff. You just need a picture of this QR code, and then you need to put in the same credentials, which are username PFA in capitals, and then password PFA capitals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bingo, you're on the server with your iPhone in ATAK. Everything gets, of course, streamed over your phone, so if you don't have phone connection, it doesn't work, but maybe you want to try it out a little bit. Voice comms. Okay, if this video wouldn't be too long already, we also have something to talk about, which is voice comms. So let's quickly talk over my voice comm setup to complete my overall off-the-grid communication setup I have here running in my chest rig. First of all, my radio is the Baofeng UV25, and I actually like it a lot because of a couple reasons. First, it's huge. It's huge and heavy, which is nice. It gives me some front heaviness on my chest rig, and I like that because otherwise I will be choked by it. Other positive thing is this giant battery. It holds so much charge for such a long time. It's perfect for me. I don't really have to recharge it on a big op. The battery held for like easy 5 days without transmitting. This is a very positive thing. A negative thing, of course, with these is that the little flashlight gets on all the time, and the knob here is quite easy to twist, so it can happen that you change your volume level all the time, or you turn on the flashlight in the middle of the night. It just happens. It's like maybe you can 3D print your own enclosure. I'm not going to do that. I'm fine with that, but it's just a little thing with Baofengs you need to be aware of. But this sits in here in the mutant pouch. And connected to it, I have connected the yogurt cup antenna with a nice BNC adapter that goes here. Oh, and it looks so nice and it feels so good to put BNC on. Jesus Christ. I have the radio connected to the tech mic. This is the CT5 tech mic from JCI Comms. This is really a specialty magic build he did for me because I wanted to have a couple of like specialty things. This accepts Nexus TP120, which is NATO plug. So any Peltor, whatever device, Earmore, Sorden, anything you can think of with this plug goes in here. So I can use this on my Peltors. But I can also use this without my Peltors and as a speaker mic. I can just hit this really big red button and then this works as a speaker mic. I can mute it again, and if I have it muted, what I can do, I have down here a little 3.5 millimeter cinch adapter, so I can put here as a mono speaker any kind of headphone I want. So in my case, what I used for the last op is a bone conductor headset that just sits on here like that, and it bone conducts into my ear, and I can press the PTT button here on the bottom. This is if you use a normal radio, you use the bottom button to PTT. But if you use an UV82, you have dual comms. So you could use A channel, the top button, B channel, the bottom button. So you have dual comms within one unit if you want so. Then there's, I covered this up because it was snowing, but there's a volume control for the headphones, or I have a different headphones I want to use next time, which is like, you can have like the security ones that goes in ear, this one which is just one headphone that goes in ear, and I want to try out this next. This worked kind of well, but it was a little bit not so loud on the end that it was sometimes hard to understand people, even at night, because if it goes crazy on the airsoft battlefield, you know, it's gonna be loud. So, and then on the back, we have another two specialty items, and we have two little tiny buttons here, a red one and a black one. The black one allows us to switch between NATO wired headsets and civilian / Peltor wired headset. So you can literally use any kind of headset that looks like this, like active hearing protection, that there is. You can use Peltors, you can use Earmos, you can use Sordens. Everything that has a 4-pin will work with this. So if the button is pushed in right now, this means this is good for Peltor wired because I have civilian Peltor wired. And then there's a little red button, and this is an amplifier. It's a switchable impedance matching microphone amplifier. So you can pretty much use any standard headset that is 3.5 millimeter, as we saw already in the bottom. And what I noticed right now, it should be flush to amplify, and it was not. So the amplification is off, so I need to push it. Now it's flush, now amplification is on. Now maybe the headset also works better. This is the testing you should do in front of the game, right? I told everyone that in the last video, but yeah, you see, I also get there sometimes. On the back, it has a little clip, so you can attach it to your gear. And what I did, I modified this already. I put some Velcro in there to make it a little bit more snug, to have a little bit more grip, and that the little clip is not so easily detached. Plus, I have these rubber bands around here. This is a little thing I found on AliExpress. It's really cool. It's like this little thing I slipped through the back. It's this little sheet. I love this. This is really the setup I was really looking for. And there's even more options you can get. You can get a little remote wired socket for your fingers, so you can have a sniper switch, which means you have the PTT on the tip of your fingers. While you're like then on your sniper, you can PTT with a press of the button on your finger while holding your sniper rifle or whatever. You don't need to go onto your actual tech mic. Plus there's another one where you can have a 3.5mm TRRS socket, which means you can feed your phone into there and then you can play music from your phone, which is absolutely nuts. So much stuff you can do with this. I bet there's some people out there who want to listen to some AC/DC while running their dual com system. Funsies. If you want to, you can. So this was it of this long ass video. I hope you learned something, because I did learn a lot in the recent developments of this. This was everything after Light Sim, and I was really going headfirst into multiple rabbit holes and came out the other end and dipped right back into. I hope you can take something back with into the new season of 2025, and I think we're gonna see more and more Meshtastic and also ATAK on the airsoft game fields. Or if you go hiking, next time I'm hiking, I'm taking this. Absolutely. Are you crazy? Of course I will. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below, but also check out my Discord. I have set up different channels. I'm trying to revive my Discord server. All the channels, there's channels for Meshtastic, there's channels for ATAK. If you have any very specific questions, we can talk about it there. Go check it out. Otherwise, have fun. Use Meshtastic, go out, go in the wild, find some nodes, play Pokemon Go in the real world with little nodes. It's fun. Ich hab den Maul fusselig, Leute. Alle Batterien sind ein bisschen leer. Alles klar. Deuces.